This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me in studio, I welcome the Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board, David Augustinho. David, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. Delighted to be here.
Thank you so much again for joining us here in studio. We love to have our guests come in. So you just came in here and opened up your computer, and boom, the latest unemployment numbers are here. So that's what we got
very
to talk
latest.
about.
Yes, and so the very latest numbers are that our unemployment rate for June 2015 is 5%. Which is the same as the May rate, which I find a little curious. Usually we take a dip between May and June. I would expect that from what I'm seeing, that we'll probably have a significant drop for July. So we'll see. But the really good news is that in June of 2014, the rate was almost 6%,
Wow.
5.9%. So we're down about a full percentage point from last year at the same time. And that's an excellent, excellent sign that the economy is stronger than it was.
Absolutely. And looking at those numbers, how does Barnstable County kind of compare to the rest of the state in terms of its unemployment?
Well, we're right on the state number. The state number is 4.9%, which is up from 4.4% in May. So interesting. So the state went up half a percentage point, and we stayed the same.
Interesting.
Which is good. So if there has been some increase, and I'm having trouble trying to figure out why the unemployment rate would have gone up, but the good news is that we stayed the same while the rest of the state went up. And some of the higher unemployment areas, let's see, jeepers, everybody's pretty far down. I mean, something like, Bristol County is down to 6%. They've been running double digits. I mean, the same. So it looks like it's a very healthy employment picture for the state of Massachusetts.
Indeed, the job picture is improving across. And of course, here on Cape Cod, we do have a lot of seasonal employment. The landscapers are all hard at work doing their jobs. And of course, all the kitchen staff, the restaurants have boosted up their summer staff. And I think even healthcare adds additional workers in the summertime, too, to deal with that swell in population.
They do. As a matter of fact, the emergency room at Cape Cod Hospital here in Hyannis is the busiest emergency room in the state. And I know that that's fueled by the numbers in the summer. So many people, of course, are here and they're away from their regular practitioners, so they wind up using the emergency room more than they would in other places. So that always kind of interested me. So yeah, healthcare, and I still think that construction is really returning to its pre-recession levels in activity. So I think that's part of the reason why it's going so well.
That was one of those facets of the economy that really did suffer when the economy hit the skids several years ago. People weren't building houses, they weren't making renovations, they weren't doing additions, and slowly but surely it's like, okay, let's start doing this again. And that's good news for all of our roofers, siders, plumbers, installers, floorers, all that business.
Exactly. But of course there's a downside to all this employment. I know that's hard to believe.
I'm curious to hear what that is.
Well, our hospitality industry employers are having trouble finding enough workers to maintain the level of service that they would like to maintain. You're always doing a balancing act when you're in a hospitality area, one that depends on tourism, because service is the coin of the realm. I mean, if people are coming in and not having the service experience that they expect, it can be very, it's not good for the region. So there are some pockets, especially down Cape in the Provincetown, Wellfleet area, but across the Cape, hospitality employers, especially in the restaurants, are finding it more difficult than ever to fill their staffs.
And that's really interesting. Is that just because there's maybe a smaller amount of foreign workers coming here, a smaller amount of younger people who want to take those jobs?
Yes.
Both of those things.
Both of those things, absolutely. The federal government has made it much more difficult for H-2B employees to come here, and for a number of years, many of our hospitality entities depended upon the H-2B employees, and because it's gotten more difficult to bring them over, we've moved away from that source, and we're using a lot more of the J-1 visa. That's the cultural visa for students, and they're not quite as let me see, what's the word I want? They're here for a cultural experience. That's the idea behind the program. So,
right.
they're not as reliable employees, especially to fill the full season as H-2B workers once were.
More here to enjoy the sights and sounds and culture of Cape Cod than to go to work every day.
Cape Cod and the rest of the country, a lot of them, the reason that they'll want to bolt in August or early September is that they can go to New York, Boston, Chicago, get around the country a little bit and experience the American experience.
That's right, the American experience. So going back to construction, obviously that's one of the big industries here on the Cape, and as we said, kind of experiencing a resurgence. And in October, there's going to be a construction career day. Tell me a little bit about this career day and who it's targeted towards.
Right. Well, it's targeted toward high school students, mostly juniors and seniors, and we're working with the Cape Cod Home Builders and Remodelers Association. Chris Duran over there, who's the executive director for the association, has been working closely with us to try to provide a hands-on experience for high school students who might be interested in the construction industries. Historically, we've done an activity usually in the central part of the state, up in the Worcester area, where we've been able to send a few students up there. So we thought it would be a good idea to maybe do something a little more extensive here, where we could help more students have this hands-on experience. So I think it's October 15th. I'm not 100% sure, but in the middle of October, so we'll be getting together at the fairgrounds down in Falmouth, and we expect to have a full day of robust activities for young people. It'll be set up kind of like a trade show with a lot of the construction employers having booths and activities that young people will participate in.
Great, and learning all sorts of aspects from entry level, and you can really start and perhaps grow your business to the time that you don't even have to be out there with a hammer and nail. You can be the one sending out everybody else where to go and administering all of those projects. Absolutely,
and even into some of the less hands-on activities such as architecture, and those kind of activities will also be available.
Great. And David, just before I let you go, let's talk a little bit about the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board. If people have questions, if they want to find out what you do or get connected with some of the services, what's the best way for them to do so?
We have a pretty robust website, ciwib.org. Or people can email me at david@ciwib.org, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that they have, or they could call 508-775-5900.
Great. David, thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it.
I like doing it this way.
Yeah, it's fun, right?
It is.
It's much more fun than just being a stranger on the phone.
I feel like when my picture's there, I'm looming.
Exactly, but now you're here in person, so
Excellent.
we appreciate it. David Augustinho, of course, the Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board. You can find them online at ciwib.org. For Barnstable This Morning, I'm Sarah Coleman.